Hi, I'm Matt from Mount Forge, and I'm here to talk to you about Glacier National Park. My guess is you're planning a trip to one of the most beautiful national parks in the world. It's going to be a life-changing trip with unbelievable sights and memories you're going to cherish forever. The question is, when is the best time to go? I'm here to help you answer that question for yourself. Having said that, the most important thing to consider during this entire video is you. Glacier National Park doesn't have one single best experience. There is something incredible at every turn on any single day of the year. I'm going to break down each season for you with the pros and cons of each that will help you decide when to plan your trip. Wintertime in Glacier is a special time of year. The staff are operating at a minimum, everything is quiet, and snow blankets the entire park. You'll never have to fight for a parking spot, and there's still plenty of things to do. The winter activities in the park are among the best in the world. There are dozens of trails that are still accessible for snowshoeing and cross-country skiing. You can even camp at the Apgar campground if you're willing to brave the cold. I love visiting in the wintertime because there are no crowds, parking is always easy to find, and there's nothing prettier than a snow-covered Glacier National Park. On the flip side, winter can be very dangerous in Glacier National Park. Roads can be treacherous, blizzards are common, avalanches occur, and trails can be dangerously icy. You have to be fully prepared for the elements if you plan to visit during the winter. Snowshoes, or crampons for your shoes, are essential along with the proper winter gear to protect you from the cold. Because of the massive amount of snow that the park gets, only a small portion of the park is accessible in the wintertime. Going to the Sun Road is plowed to Lake McDonald Lodge, but other than that, driving is basically impossible. The best access is in the West Glacier area, but you can also get into the southern part of the park, as well as some trails near East Glacier by foot. Next up is the springtime. I love spring visits to Glacier National Park. The scenery becomes spectacular and green, the crowds are limited, and you can still see some amazing sights. Although it does vary by year and weather, going to the Sun Road becomes accessible by bike and sometimes by car if enough snow melts. This gives access to some of the best sights in the park without having to deal with the fuss of trying to fight for a parking spot or getting there super early at Logan Pass. You can hike to places like Apgar Lookout and Avalanche Lake, and you can even bike going to the Sun Road all the way to the Continental Divide, just as long as you avoid the snowplows. Not to mention, lodging is at a discount and reservations are much easier to come by. This is the perfect time of year to visit if you still want to see the outdoors, hike a little bit, but you really want to avoid the crowds. Although springtime is a great time of year to visit and you can see a lot of the most amazing things Glacier has to offer, there are still a lot of things that are inaccessible until the weather warms up. Many higher elevation hikes, like the popular Highline Trail, are still snow covered. Going to the Sun Road may be open, but that is a complete toss-up. Some years it's open in May, other years not until July. If getting to Logan Pass is a must-see on your trip to Glacier National Park, spring is probably a risky time for you to visit. Experiencing summertime in Glacier National Park might be one of the most amazing things a person can ever do. Hiking trails deep into the Montana backcountry, seeing incredible overlooks, and enjoying long summer days at Glacier National Park, it's just about incomparable to anywhere else on Earth. In the summertime, you can access the coveted eastern side of the park and even hike through Goat Hunt into Canada. The crown of the continent is at its best in the summer and you can see every amazing thing that it has to offer. I'll tell you what though, if you don't like waking up super early to try to find a parking spot, crossing paths with hundreds of strangers in a day, or waiting in line to take an iconic photo, summertime at Glacier National Park might not be the best time for you to visit. July and August are the two most popular months of the year, and a large majority of the park's roughly 3 million annual visitors visit during just those 2 months alone. This means that trails are much more crowded and finding a hotel or accommodation can be difficult. Things are much more expensive during the peak season and you'll need to plan your trip very far in advance to make sure you have a place to stay. If you want to see nature's incredible colors that come in the fall, look no further than an autumn in Glacier National Park. After Labor Day passes, the crowds start to die down and the leaves start to change. Places to stay become more affordable, reservations for things like excursions are easier to come by, and you won't have to fight for a parking spot at Logan Pass, as long as it's still open. Most trails are still very accessible, like Gunsight Pass into mid-September, and even later if the weather permits. Fall might be the perfect time for you to have that epic trip to Glacier National Park that you've always dreamed of. Unfortunately, if you're planning a trip during the fall, the weather in Glacier National Park can be extremely unpredictable. On a good year, you can get to Logan Pass in mid or late October, but if a big snowstorm comes through, it could be closed as early as mid-September. This makes trip planning more difficult because you're not always certain about what you will be able to see. If this is your bucket list trip and you have a bunch of must-sees like the Highline Trail, you might consider visiting in the summertime. Similarly, a lot of seasonal businesses begin to shutter their doors for the season, making things a bit more complicated. In closing, you'll have an amazing time no matter when you decide to visit Glacier National Park. You just have to ask yourself what's most important to you. Is there a specific trail or overlook that you really need to see, or are you flexible and want to save a little bit of money? These are the questions that you just need to ask yourself that will help you decide when the best time to visit is. If you plan on making a trip to Glacier, consider visiting our cabin that sits on 63 acres just south of Flathead Lake. We've made many day trips to Glacier National Park from Mount Forge, and it's the perfect home base to explore Western Montana. If you enjoyed this video, hit that subscribe button for more Western Montana travel tips and amazing things to do.